We have another tweet, this one regarding the senior men's U.S. national team. Soccer Thoughts says, I've heard people talk about money as being an issue for the next manager. How about we just don't fill those other positions, meaning sporting director and general manager, and just give all the money to José Mourinho?
Okay, I've heard this about breaking the bank. I've heard this question and this opinion that because 2026 is such a big moment, that the United States Soccer Federation should do whatever it takes to get the best possible coach. Now, keep in mind that when you're talking about Mourinho's and these types of coaches, I mean, you're talking into 8 figures at times in terms of what they are making. And that's not even close to what the U.S. is going to pay. And also keep in mind that the United States Soccer Federation, while they want to do well in 2026 and they recognize the opportunity and the platform that 2026 is, they also have a responsibility to post-2026. And I think sometimes this gets lost in the constant conversation where the U.S. men's national team and the U.S. women's national team take up so much of the oxygen. And I understand why. They are the focal points, and they are the massive generators of revenue for the United States Soccer Federation. But the United States Soccer Federation is so much more than just the U.S. men's national team and the U.S. women's national team. And so they do have a fiduciary responsibility to be responsible in terms of what they do. And I don't think that spending the $10 million or whatever it ends up being is necessarily what you need to do going forward. Because keep in mind, again, every single dollar that you spend on a José Mourinho or something like that is a dollar taken away from all of the other programs. And this gets back to also the U.S. women's and men's national team. And while they don't like to talk about it and they don't like to recognize it publicly, for understandable reasons, and I was in their position too, and I wouldn't want to either. When they are getting their money and getting theirs, which is what they ultimately are fighting for, they are again taking money away from other programs and other things that the United States Soccer Federation is responsible for, all of their membership and all of their programs. And so bankrupting or making irresponsible financial decisions on the United States Soccer Federation's part in order to go and sign someone like José Mourinho, I don't think that that's responsible. I don't think that that is the right thing to do. And I'm not saying that you don't push it. I'm not saying that 2026 isn't an important event. But I think what's going to also happen here in the future, we're going to come to find out how much money the U.S. women's national team and the U.S. men's national team are making going forward. And there's going to be a lot of questions as to, was this responsible from a fiscal perspective? Was this fiduciary responsibility that you have the right thing to do, or ultimately the easiest thing to do? And what other things are now being hurt in the federation because of the money that you are giving now to the men and the women, and potentially going forward, to answer your question here, a manager where you're going into 8 figures.
But even you've acknowledged you're not sure what the general manager does in the situation.
Yeah.
So let's say they had an amount budgeted for a manager and then an amount budgeted for a general manager, and they could get the ideal manager in place. Would you be willing to say, hey, let's just scrap the general manager and just pool that money together and just use it to hire the best manager possible?
Well, so what ended up happening was Ernie Stewart went to this position above everyone, okay, so they could pay him what they needed to pay him. And he oversaw both the men's and women's program. Kate Margraf as the GM over for the women, and then Brian McBride over this as the GM for the men's. What's going to probably happen here is they're just going to separate the two. And Kate Margraf will be responsible for the women, and insert this person over here, whether it's a sporting director or a GM. And so there will be this separation. But still, now who is overseeing them in terms of what Ernie Stewart has done? But yes, it doesn't, but that doesn't change the numbers.
I understand your larger point.
No matter what they're paying, it's not even going to come close to the $10 million or whatever that José Mourinho is used to making. So yeah, I don't think that you break the bank and in doing so put yourself into that type of debt simply to sign José Mourinho for 2026.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops every week. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You like that clip?
Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.